This is confusing me. Is there any way you just like turn it on, get rid of it? Sure.
Okay, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to today's presentation of the CURC Webinar Series entitled Focus on Reduce, Education, Outreach, and Marketing to Prevent Waste. My name is Eric Halverson. I'm the Program Coordinator for the College and University Recycling Coalition, and I'll be your moderator today. For those of you not familiar with CURC, the College and University Recycling Coalition is a member-based organization that works to grow collegiate recycling and waste reduction efforts by fostering technical information exchange and networking opportunities between the staff and student leaders of colleges and universities implementing programs. Today's program is part of our free CURC Webinar Series, which is designed to highlight innovative campus programs.
The whole country's going to see it.
Which is designed to highlight innovative campus programs and provide trends and perspectives on a broad range of operational, educational, and other topics related to collegiate recycling and sustainable materials management. And today is the 7th webinar in our 2019 series. I want to thank our partner, AASHE, the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Ed, for the logistical and promotional support of the webinar series. We have a few housekeeping notes to go over before we begin. So if you have any problems with your audio or video during the webinar, you can reach a live technician by calling GoToWebinar's customer support line at 800-263-6317. That's 800-263-6317. To avoid background noise, we placed all but our panelists' lines on mute. We encourage you to submit questions at any time, however, by using the dashboard on the right side of your screen. Simply click the plus symbol where it says questions to type us a note, and we will read as many of these as possible out loud at the end of the presentations. And as well, copies of today's presentation slides will be available to download and a recording available to stream within the next day or so from the CURC website, www.curc3r.org. That's www.curc3r.org. On today's webinar, we'll feature 4 presentations focused on campus waste reduction strategies and outreach efforts and opportunities to promote the first R of reduce, reuse, and recycle. We'll start with a presentation from Sally Grans-Korsh, Senior Advisor for Facilities Management and Environmental Policy with the National Association of College and University Business Officers. Next, we'll hear from Van Sullivan, Executive Director for the Faculty Student Association with Stony Brook University. Following Van, we'll hear from Recyclemania Manager Kristy Jones and Bill Stonecypher, Manager of the Solid Waste Management and University Recycling Program at Loyola Marymount University. And finally, there will be a presentation from Deron Beal, Executive Director of the Freecycle Network. Up first, Sally Grans-Korsh has acted as a Senior Advisor of Facilities Management and Environmental Policy since April 2013 at the National Association of College and University Business Officers, or I'm sure you might say NACUPO. She works collaboratively throughout the organization to deliver innovative, high-quality information, programs, and services for the membership and other stakeholders relating to facilities and sustainability issues. Prior to that, she served as System Director for Facilities Planning at Minnesota State Colleges and Universities, Office of the Chancellor, for 13 years, representing 54 campuses. So with that, I'd like to welcome Sally.
Hi, do I have control of the slides now?
I'm gonna send it right your way.
Great. Well, thanks for joining. I don't, let me see there. Okay, you see it?
Not yet, Sally. Did you accept the invitation?
Can you send it again? I thought I did. Sorry.
There's no problem. We'll sort this out.
Well, I'll just keep talking. I don't know what you're seeing right now on the slide, but I am from Nakubo, and I'm going to talk a little bit more. And this isn't just a marketing ad for Nakubo. But I want to explain a little bit about what some of our services are, because it's always helpful to kind of know. Okay, there it is. Show my screen.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. You're good
Okay.
to go.
Great, thanks. So it's important to note our composition, that you can see that we're close to 2,000 members, and we're institutionally based, and that's really important to understand, because if your institution belongs to us, then you can belong to us. And the benefit of that is that you get to get access to some information and training that you might not otherwise get. So if you just go to nakubo.org, and up in the upper right-hand corner, it says login member. And if your campus is a member and you've got that email with the name of the campus.edu, you can be a member too. However, I do want to stress that we do have a lot of information that's available to people, even if you're not an actual member. For instance, our website's got a lot of interesting information, and I want to tell you that I'm just trying to give you sort of a strategic overlay, and the goal the goal is to work better with your finance and business officers. So there's a lot of good information there. Like, for instance, we just did a sustainability checklist this summer, and it's really kind of trite to think that you could put all your sustainability issues into one simple document. But the whole goal of that was literally just to make it simplistic so that you could pass it around to other people. And needless to say, we've got a lot of things about waste, recycling, organics, and landfill that's listed on it. And we feel that that's just as prominent as, believe it or not, the curriculum and the air and climate that you breathe. So that's an important piece. We also just launched a Sustainability Connection newsletter, and that's been very popular. We just got that sent out to 5,000 CFO and business officers, and 1,200 of them actually opened it. So you should go online and you should connect to it. It only comes out on a quarterly basis. And I'm also always interested in if you've got some good story that you think should be told. And part of the benefit about working with finance and business officers, as well as presidents and other vice presidents, is that they love it when you tell their story. And so anytime you could give me information about what you're doing that's successful is really good for your campus, as well as it's good for your leadership. We also have what's called the Campus Environmental Resource Center, which has a lot of good information from the EPA and other kind of regulatory groups, in case that's of interest to you. And then we have a business officer magazine. And again, one of the reasons why you look at a magazine from a different group is to understand some of the vocabulary that they're using and to understand some of the things. Many people are surprised when I show them this slide and go, wow, business officers are interested in the food fight and water resourcing and Gen Z people. I mean, this is really what our business officers are reading to understand. So it's good for you in your field to look at what the dynamics are that the depth and breadth of a finance officer is paying attention. And on that depth and breadth, I always like to talk about our podcasts, because I think they're very interesting in telling the story about how to communicate with people. We have specialized things about the Nakubo and Brief, but we also have the CBO Speaks, and we've now got 58 CBOs that have gone on record. So there's probably one in your area, or there's one in an institution that's similar to yours. And just like paying attention to what Oprah says, it's to understand what that human component is about what they're thinking is interesting and how they're leading their institutions is really an important piece to communicate with them better. I'll talk a little bit about this later, but I wanted to bring up that APA, which is the facilities folks, and Nakubo, which is the finance folks, got together 6 years ago and created a really simplistic survey on energy, electrical, water, carbon, and garbage and recycling. We think that these 5 elements are really critical for every leader to know. And so I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I wanted to also mention that I'm really proud of the fact that NACUBO just recently came up and institutionalized their commitment to strengthening environmental initiatives and outcomes. And obviously that's part of waste and recycling, reduce and reusing. And so I just want to make sure that, and you probably already know this, but it's really good to make sure that your institution has somehow or another encapsulated the importance of recycling and waste issues in your institution. That's a really good piece to do. Finally, I guess I'm obviously, you know how you report in your governance structure, but it is really important to know that to respect those perspectives and communications is really critical. I mean, just on this unique panel, we've got a lot of different elements of a campus being represented, and it's important that you understand where you are and how you can deal with it. But I also like to quickly say that a good story that I heard just about a year ago was that a very successful sustainability director had been working with their finance officer, vice president, really well for about 8 years, but a new finance officer came in, new CFO, vice president, and it just wasn't clicking as well. And so what happened was a very productive evaluation of where this person could maybe move the resource and recovery and sustainability component. You know, should they go to facilities? Should they go to the provost? And they ended up actually going into the academic provost chain of command because that's where it was felt to be the best benefit. And what was interesting about that, it was a positive win-win both for the new CFO who didn't want to deal with these kind of issues as well as to that person in that grouping. So I think it's worthwhile to always kind of question and think about where you should be in the org chart and what best benefits both the university as well as your individual structure. And again, this is stolen from the Big Ten and Friends group, but it's really important to understand that your recycling and waste recovery institution components really benefits the university. It is not a cost or an additional add. It is a benefit that helps your campus. You obviously know about the culture that resists change, and I always like to bring up the NASCAR example, not exactly known to be leaders in environmental issues, but they actually are. And I got this slide from, they had a Green Sports Alliance, another great group that has an amazing track record of improving their waste and recycling components. But it was fascinating to learn how they were working culturally to encapsulate new green programs and recycling components, everything from oil to paper and back again. So it was really good to know that. And it is important to know that your vice presidents and your CBOs, chief business officers, do share a lot of your same frustrations. So frankly, you have probably more in common with them than you might think, because they do understand about cultures that resist change and that there's not enough money and difficulties with leadership. And so it is important to know that they can be your ally when you share some of the same frustrations. A good organization to look to understand how to seek positive communication is Eco-America. They have a series of both webcasts as well as written documents about how to talk about climate and how to motivate people. The issue here is that clearly it's about climate, but you could obviously take some of those suggestions and tweak them to your own particular campus, your own region, and who you're dealing with. So I urge that that's a really good resource to look at, ecoamerica.org, for how to talk about cultural differences. Obviously, judgment and emotion are difficult to do, but I want to emphasize that what you're doing in the renewable resources component here is really critical to all aspects. Now, you've probably seen this triangle with people, profit, and planet, but I think it's facilities, finance, and academics. And it's that intersection there that you do represent and can benefit both academics, as we'll see later, finance, and facilities. One of the things that the facilities folks really liked was when we showed these campus efficiency posters. And every year our annual meeting has about 40 of these that we present. What's really important is that they're online for you to see, and you can look at different types of examples of how to present things. And again, I know that the November CURC webcast had a great thing about designing different graphics, but this is like designing graphics for marketing your efforts and to showing and highlighting your efforts. So a lot of these posters are online. Like this was a great one that I got from Chandler Gilbert Community College. What was good about this is that it told a very detailed but important story about how they worked with multidisciplinary collaboration, how they did analysis, how they did behavior studies, and they actually constructed a biodigester component. But what was interesting too is that they used this then in their institution to show and to highlight. So it doesn't become just a static thing that's shown to leadership, but it's also shown to students to help enlighten them, because they are the leaders of tomorrow. And if we don't share the good news that we're doing, it's kind of wasted. The Community College of Baltimore County also had a big piece on their food component programs and how they reused a lot of things for the community, which is really important. The one on the right there is the University of Alabama Sustainability Strategic Plan. And I just liked how it highlighted that grounds and waste was really just as important as even the curriculum and transportation, that they had equal value in understanding that it's all part of a significant 6-year strategic plan for them. Luther College did a very good documentation. And again, they use this not only for the NACUBO to brag nationally about what the work they're doing, but they use this internally to even bring over to community events to show what they're doing and helping the community by reducing the waste that they're involved in. Finally, I'm going to talk briefly about the key facilities metrics. As I said, this is a 5-area kind of component, and it was originally due in December, but we've extended the deadline till January 17th. So if your campus is filling it out, this is a great way to find out where you stand in relationship to other institutions of your size or other institutions in your region. There are like literally 18 different ways in which you can compare your data. And you only have to fill out 2 or 3 of these, and that's very helpful. But if you're interested in getting a copy of the survey, you certainly can contact me. I'll send you a copy of it, and I can also tell you if someone started your survey. The only drawback really is that only one person per campus can fill it out. So here's the data that we pulled, and this is based on about 350 campuses over the last 5 years. And what's interesting about it is that it's done by weight. Now, again, I know that some of you can't do weight in your analysis of garbage and recycling, but here's a good example of showing what one campus did, one small institution. They literally, this is how much weight a small institution did in recycling, and the one on the right shows the one how much in garbage. And Unity College, this was their poster that I really liked. They actually took the data that we had from the key facilities metric and compared it to their own cell. I loved how they showed that really they're doing a lot better than the average median that we had. And that's a really important piece to kind of tell their story to not just to their students, but to their community, to funders as well. It was a great graphic that showed their benefit. But not everybody can do it by weight. And one really wonderful, very sustainable liberal arts institution in a rural area just decided that they did it by a unit analysis. And it didn't take a genius to figure out that what was happening once they started looking and examining the contents of their dumpsters, is that they found out that they were pretty empty on Monday. So they ended up on a trial basis going to a Tuesday and Friday pickup. And interestingly enough, they saved like about 25% in cost, but more importantly, the neighborhood actually sent them a community appreciation letter because there were less trucks coming into the area. Now, I know there are policies involved, and there was some difficulties that they had with administrators and faculty and staff and students who had difficulty in understanding that things were going to be picked up on a regular basis. But in the end, they really made it work. The University of Minnesota Morris did something similar, and this is a little bit more detailed analysis about how they talked to their hauler. They did a very good analysis over a month-long basis, and they ended up by moving dumpsters, renegotiating rates, and in talking to custodial staff, they ended up by, in a 7-year time period, saving $30,000. Now, this is the kind of stuff that really does make people stand up and pay attention to what you're doing when you can show them real dollars that you're saving, and that's a benefit to them. And of course, there's a benefit in that there's less dumpsters moving around a campus and causing carbon issues. So again, I just want to bring this up that if you're interested, you should be checking out the survey. You can go to our website, the Key Facilities Survey. I'd be glad to help you and see if send you a copy of the survey, and glad to talk to you specifically about anything else that I can help you with in terms of the relationship between the finance office and your particular office.
Thank you, Sally. We'll be taking questions for Sally, so if you have any of those, you can send them along. Could you talk more about the relationship between, earlier you showed us that great graphic of that triangle, and you talked about how waste management can connect to financial officers such as college, university, business officers. Could you talk more about how the facilities management can get on the reduction of waste side there, and how maybe the key metrics survey can go into more discussions about purchasing power and support for waste reduction programs going forward, how that directly connects between each office?
Well, all I can say is that there is a cause and effect of everything, and if you can prove both to facilities management either a staffing benefit or a financial benefit for the reduction of like as I was saying earlier about trucks and how that can work, it's important just to try to show the benefit. Again, going back to the communications of trying to relate to whoever the perspective is that you're doing. Obviously, for financing, we're talking about dollars. For facilities, you might be talking about maintaining the proper custodial cleanliness of a space. For the academics, again, what we're trying to do is hopefully show the benefit of reducing, reusing, recycling to lifelong leadership in that area to protecting the earth. So that was a long question, and I've kind of lost the thread of what else I should be talking about. But there is an overlap here, clearly, in benefit to both facilities, to finance, and to the academic mission and vision.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that connection with us. Something to a different perspective than a lot of the managers on campus, but we'll get to more of those managerial perspectives. So thank you for your time, Sally. And more questions, if you have for Sally, you can pass them along. And Sally's slides will be available up on our website soon. So thank you, Sally. And we're going to move on to our next presenter. So up
Hi,
next,
everybody.
Van Sullivan serves as the Chief Operating Officer of the Faculty Student Association's Auxiliary Corporation, providing strategic vision and leadership with an emphasis on the continued development, refinement, and implementation of best-in-class services. He is responsible for understanding and advocating for the concerns and needs of students and other campus partners in consultation with the FSA board, leads the planning processes for short and long-term goals. During his tenure at the University of Massachusetts, Van was responsible for 28 units, planning and executing over 30 million in annual volume, and serviced over 18,000 guests daily across various services supported by the organization. So everyone welcome Van, and we're excited to have Van's perspective.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. I'm just gonna, there we go. Okay, show my screen. All right, I'm hoping everybody can see this. It's up on my screen. I wanted to just talk about a couple of things briefly. I did spend almost 10 years at UMass Amherst, and then have been here at Stony Brook for just about, actually just over a year. And UMass Amherst is a self-operated auxiliary services and self-operated dining program, 100%. So I do have some experience implementing waste reduction and plastic reduction stuff in-house. Stony Brook University is a hybrid campus. Our sort of main undergrad campus has a dining partner, a contract partner we work with, but we also operate a medical school and a series of hospitals. And Stony Brook Medical Center is self-operated, so we have the ability to sort of do both a bit here. I'm going to buzz through quickly just a quick background on Stony Brook University. I'm going to jump into some sustainability programs that we sort of have in place, talk a little bit about how we got the initiative going. And then the four main questions I was asked to answer was the process of designing our plastic reduction program, how our program was implemented, what marketing we've done, and the assessments that we have done or will do. So Stony Brook University, I like to say, is the least well-known, most amazing university in the nation. We were founded, relatively young university, founded in 1957, consistently ranking with the top public universities in the nation. We're located about 60 miles east of New York City in Suffolk County, Long Island. We do have 25,000 students on our campus, a large number of faculty and staff, a very large and well-known medical school, and within this mix, also a very well-known School of Marine Sciences, which helps to make plastic reduction a really interesting conversation. We have a campus out in the Hamptons, of all places, where our Marine and Atmospheric Sciences School is. That's right on the water and is one of very few programs that do this in the nation, and it is an extremely well-regarded program. And then the state of New York, a little bit wonky for folks not in auxiliary services. In the state of New York, all of the SUNY schools, of which we are one, have separately incorporated auxiliaries. So we are a nonprofit, not-for-profit 501c3 that's formed in contract with the state university system under the leadership of a board of directors from Stony Brook University to provide goods and services to the school. And you can see the various goods and services that we provide here to the campus. And these are some of the major partners that we currently work with on the campus. What do we do every day? It's a large scope auxiliary. I would rank us certainly in, I'd say, the top sort of 25% in terms of size and scope. Our university, of those 28,000, we do have 10,000 undergraduates living on campus, which makes us a very large residential program, one of the largest on the East Coast. It's somewhat interesting. The university has a reputation as a commuter school, but we actually do have a very large group of residential students here, which make our plastic reduction program all the more interesting. Some initiatives that we have currently in place. I'm going to buzz through this stuff sort of quickly, but just to put our plastic reduction program within sort of scope. I did want to say I did spend a great deal of time at UMass Amherst, which has a relatively progressive sustainability department. Had the opportunity to meet and work with some really, really sharp folks, especially John Pepe, who's a waste management director, and a guy named Ezra Small, who's the campus sustainability manager. And I was able to learn a great deal from them. And I'm quite proud of the ability to sort of bring some of that here to Stony Brook. Interestingly, Stony Brook University had been through a series of 5, to be specific, dining partners in an 11-year period, which put us in a situation where I'm going to call it a convenience creeped in. And so while it was a very large school with a very large direction on sustainable practices, in the dining services specifically, and a lot of it just based on going through a variety of partners, a lot of sort of plastic type convenience had creeped in. And it was somewhat jarring to me, frankly, when I came here a year ago, and in my first week, we do a midnight breakfast program where administration staff sort of take over a dining hall and serve breakfast up to midnight the week of exams. And it was plastic plates, plastic silverware, plastic PCs, and sort of plastic serviceware that were in place. And I realized that we did have a lot of work to do here, and that this was something that needed to sort of change immediately to go into sort of compliance with the rest of what we're doing. So we compost. We use some reusable takeout containers. We have a freight farm on campus. We have one of those converted freight farms that we get about 250 pounds of vegetables out of. We have dining gardens outside of our dining halls where we do grow various degrees of produce, and that's all run by students. Got a quick video that I'm going to show of some students that actually went on a farm tour. Unbeknownst to many, many folks, the eastern end of Long Island is actually very rural, and there's a great deal of farming that happens, especially on the North Fork. I'm hoping this runs, otherwise I'll skip it.
Hello everybody, my name is Joel Van and I work for JP Food Service here in Long Island. And it's been my pleasure today to host a group of people from Stony University to get a real feel for what it's like here in the farming community in Long Island. We were fortunate enough to visit two farms, and through the course of the day, the people I was with, they all learned an awful lot from these farmers and how important it is to support our local agriculture. They do a great job, raise a wonderful product, and they should be noticed and happy. My name is Jeff Rutger, and we're in Baby Hollow, Long Island. We've been farming in this area for 52 years. That's my wife now and my two sons, part of our farming operations. We grow asparagus.
Van, could you make the audio louder on the video?
Yeah.
Pumpkin, cherry tomatoes, and everything is picked fresh.
I think that's as loud as I can get it.
Fresh, local produce. We try and put up a good product that tastes good and looks nice. We're doing our best to stay sustainable, and all the vegetables that we sell are always picked fresh. Hopefully, people will appreciate that. Yeah, I'm still with Upstream Business on Farm Incorporated here in Riverhead, New York. The home farm here is about 165 acres. We rent some additional land also. Cabbage, rotten leafy greens, kale, onions, lettuce, herbs such as cilantro, parsley, dill, basil, red beets, gold beets, carrots. Right behind us here is a field of horseradish, sweet corn. So we're quite diversified. Everything we plant here is pretty labor intensive. Most of the crops are fairly quick growing, and it's not like we plant it in the spring and harvest it in the fall. We're constantly planting, constantly harvesting. It's very, very intensive, and quite a hectic schedule. It's been in the family for many years. It's something that's in my heart. I love to do it. I like to be outside. It's pretty challenging the last few years, but we're still at it. It was really great. I've never really been to any farms on that. I've been born and raised in my whole life. I really love just going around to the farm, seeing the home stuff growing, seeing everyone working together to try to keep this industry, I can say, alive. They have the stand-up pies there. The pie was amazing. The corn that they just pulled off the stalk and let us try it, I was really like probably the best part I've ever had. Supporting them in any way possible is not only good for them, but also good for the community. We're all from the same place. Why not help each other out?
So just going to buzz along quickly. We do have a food recovery network chapter that we started this semester on campus. We just launched Farmer's Fridge in our vending program. We have rooftop gardens. I'll skip the video on this one over at our hospital as well that actually go directly into patient feeding. So we're growing herbs and vegetables at the hospital that find their way in. We're a Fill It Forward participant. and I was really happy to speak with some other folks and to see that Kristy's on board, because we are relaunching our participation in Recyclemania this year. And we also work with some students who actually have student businesses, and we're able to sell their products in our store. We've engaged with NACUFs and with some other organizations to tell our story this year. And we do also work with a lot of the with a lot of the farms. We participate in a mobile farm stand, and we also participate in local farm stands when they're in season. Okay, so it's sort of leading me up then to what happened, right? Within these larger initiatives, we really identified the need. I'd been looking at the program last spring to pull together some of the stuff that we're doing, but also to really get implemented, I think, a lot of stuff that other folks are doing and that are sort of what I consider best in class. And so buzzing through all that, one of the biggest was to take a really sharp reduction in the amount of plastic and to do it in a big kind of way and to tell that story sort of loudly. Through our process of telling that story loudly, I believe Larry came across us and invited me to come to speak about this. So seeing that midnight breakfast was an area where we had a large impact of plastic, we did a couple of things immediately last semester in identifying the need to reduce plastic usage. Straws and PCs were removed immediately. And we went ahead and did that without even telling the story, but it was the two largest sort of pieces of low-lying fruit. And then at the end of the spring semester, we very publicly launched a very different look at midnight breakfast. So we let our student guests know when they came to midnight breakfast, they were going to see something entirely different. And we did that through our regular social media means, but we also did it through our USG and through partnering with various student groups on campus. And then over the summer, we worked very diligently with our dining partner to find a way to transition as much plastic items as possible into either pulp or plant-based plastics without increasing any prices. And we were able to do that through a couple of ways. One of them was changing some hours and services to sort of reduce some expense load elsewhere in areas that we could do in return for not increasing prices because it is a little bit more expensive to use these products. The other thing is we do have a couple of items that we didn't get to that we're going to launch this spring. Plastics that go in a hot box we weren't able to resolve quite yet. And the silverware doesn't fit in the dispenser. For anybody who's using the Dixie dispensers, you're going to find that one out quickly. So we're still working on that, but we're going to launch that. So the other part I really wanted to say was that, you know, we made a big loud splash. We then went ahead and, designed a program that was going to have this sort of constantly moving horizon so we could continue to tell that story. It wasn't just a one-shot deal because there's a lot of work to be done here. And by keeping that horizon in view, we then have these continuing that we can go out and tell. And so on our horizon, in the short term, are silverware and hot box plastics. The next big item up there is some especially vending single-use plastic and plastic bottle policy, and then really starting to talk about some deep dives into things like bubblegum containers, K-cups, all of the rest of the sort of pieces of plastic that are purely disposable. Right? Just keeping my eye on the time here. So how was the program implemented? I mean, for lack of a better word, we just went out and did it. I was deeply involved at UMass Amherst, where we worked, as a self-op. We had to go find sourcing. We had to go out, work with our state procurement department, put out bids, et cetera, and we were able to sort of work our way through all of that. In this case, we sat down with our contract partner. We came to the conclusion we were doing this, and we did it. And I would say that there was really not as much of a need to sort of committee it as we might have felt. And there are a couple of interesting things. The state of New York is extremely interested in this process. We're 60 miles east of New York City, which has made a great deal of strides in this process. Our dining partner happens to operate quite a few places in New York, many of whom had tried to go plastic free at the same time. So we had a very willing partner. But I really mean it when I say it that I would not recommend spending a lot of time on it. Just do it. You got to figure out the finances. You got to figure out how you're going to pay for it. You got to get students involved. And then we pushed the go button on as much as we possibly could. with the understanding then that we set milestones in place to continue to go forward. We were able to, and as a big school, obviously there's some big numbers on here, replace the plastic clamshells for takeout. We were able to increase the reusable container program. We got rid of all the sandwich container lids. Like basically anything on here that you can see that could be replaced was replaced, and it was done just in one fell swoop. So marketing that we did social media. We do a lot of videos. We've got digital monitors throughout the campus. We're on, of course, our main campus website. We shared our story with external media, which is how I ended up here. Worked a great deal with student groups and making sure that we connected with all the various voices on campus, including some classes in our student government. We applied for as much press as we could possibly get on this. We go out and we talk to students. That picture right there is literally a student who got some food at a sustainability station on the campus mall. We've had a VIP dinner where we brought a couple of guest speakers. We brought Bridget Anderson, who's the Deputy Commissioner for Sanitation in New York City, and Chef Jahangir Mehta, who's an extremely famous Food Network chef and really leading the charge on sustainable practices in dining on campus. And we had students meet them, and we talked about all of this. We collaborated with our sustainability department on campus and tried to build as much awareness by being present at major events as we possibly could. Just as I wrap this up, I know my time's running down a little bit. In terms of assessment, we use Qualtrics software, and we also participate in the NACF survey. And these questions now for assessing the impact and knowledge, and then sentiment, which is the tough one. How do people actually feel about this? We're all in our current assessments, and we're looking forward to getting the results on that so we can continue to take actionable steps in how we tell the story of no intention of backing off on what we're actually doing. We speak to student groups. I visit every student group as much as possible, and so you get a lot of face-to-face contact. And then, of course, we have for assessment all of the sort of mechanisms that you'd have on social and on your websites and in our dining halls, et cetera. And we have started to receive some very positive feedback from our constituents. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope I've answered the questions that we were asked to, and I believe we now have time for some question and answer.
Absolutely. Thank you, Van, for that perspective. Lots of great ideas for marketing there, and there's a lot of questions for you. We only have time for about one to really answer in depth. So I'm going to combine a few questions here, and then perhaps people could send you an email if they have follow-up questions.
Please do email me. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Well, the one for you is kind of if you could talk about the service provider that Stony Brook currently uses and how the contract/conversation about cost difference in moving forward in using different materials in the dining halls and services, how that went about, and if there was any messy contract negotiations that had to happen, especially for maybe an outside provider, such as a chain restaurant that operates on campus.
Yeah, okay. So a couple of good things. It is important to time this in the in their contractor's budgeting period, right? Because, you know, one of the big differences, right, between, you really don't have a lot of our contract partners do sort of get locked into certain processes, and it's tough for them to react except during their budget process. So if you can time those two together, that's really important. It's helpful to them. We work with Culinart Group. They have been acquired by Compass recently, and they're a relatively famous caterer on Long Island, but they do operate some educational facilities, some entertainment facilities, B&I accounts, et cetera, in the New York area. And I will say in our case, since this is a sort of rapidly forming movement in the New York area, we had a willing partner who was very progressive and interested in participating, which made that a little bit easier. As a manager of, you know, a couple $100 million in contracts, I can say that all of us do have the power to enact this. It's really just a matter of figuring out how the finances are going to work. We went in with our contract partner with a very open mind about the fact that it was going to cost them some money, and we found those savings elsewhere. some hours were cut, and we were able to talk to some of our student groups about how basically these hours weren't being used anyway, or they're sort of minimal hours. We also were able to help them find some resources where the increases weren't as high necessarily, and they were able to work well with their parent company to find resources who could support them without necessarily huge increases in price. And then similarly, while we were working out our budget for the year and they were working out their budget for the year, this was a point that we were able to put into place and then come to an agreement on where the money was going to be saved elsewhere, because it was non-negotiable that we were taking these steps. And I just want to say again that Culinar was a really excellent, willing partner in this process.
Great. Thank you so much, Van. We appreciate your time and for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is Bill Stonecypher. Bill Stonecypher grew up in California's San Gabriel Valley. After high school, he served in the U.S. Army. He was in the military as an infantry sergeant, where Bill learned how to organize teams to effectively conduct logistical operations. And following his military service, he attended UC Berkeley. Upon graduation from Berkeley, he worked in a few different environmental programs. First was with the County of Los Angeles Public Works, upgrading and modernizing field precipitation gauges in the rain record database. After this 2-year job, he worked for the California Department of Agriculture and Cooperative Medfly Project, a joint federal, state, and county eradication program. And with the recycling looming large as the next pervasive environmental program, he started working for Loyola Marymount University in 1991. At LMU, Bill started, grew, and managed the university's solid waste management program that featured a strong recycling component, and was a founding member of the California Collegiate Recycling Council, as well as a charter member of NRC's College and University Recycling Technical Council. So with that, I would like to welcome Bill.
Thank you, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here. I hope everybody can hear me, and I hope people can see the screen that I have up right now.
You should have an invitation to share it with us. There you go.
Good. Anyhow, we're broadcasting today from the team room of the LMU Recycling Center, and it's a pleasure to be included in this webinar. We're going to be talking about presence, and one thing that we talk about at LMU as a Jesuit institution is the ministry of presence. And I think the recycling program has totally subscribed to that. One thing about LMU is it's primarily a residential institution. So over 85% of our students actually live on campus. And we're able to reach them in very meaningful ways, starting with orientation when we onboard new students, but through our partnerships with the AASHE and other campus organizations like the ASLMU, we're very much a staple in the culture of our campus community. And one thing that really helps are our waste recycling stations. They're very visible. There's over 700 of them externally and probably that many internally. And they really kind of broadcast that this is an institution that recycles, that takes resource recovery seriously, and indeed we have a complete recycling center to aid us in that effort. So the program is fairly visible to start out with, and that's certainly helpful if you want to entrench and become a part of your campus community in a way that's going to help your overall recycling efforts. If you take a look at some of our logistical operations on campus, we're very, very, I guess, noticeable. People see the recycling team out there every day, and I'm really proud to share with you that the recycling team is a true partnership of students and staff. We have 14 full-time employees, and we have 12 part-time students, and we handle all issues of solid waste management and recycling. including organic recycling, e-waste recycling, light tube and ballast recycling. We're a fairly comprehensive organization, and every day the community sees us out there. Oftentimes you look down campus and you'll see 7 or 12 vehicles from our group going in different directions, doing different tasks concurrently. And that's super helpful when you're really trying to get your message out there, really trying to let people know that you're serious about this effort, you need their help, you're counting on their cooperation, and they see evidence that the institution is very much bought into this whole concept and supports it. One thing we always try to do is communicate with our community, and we do this in a number of different ways, dozens and dozens of different ways. And this banner across the top right here is something that we might put on temporary containers or containers that we feel need more education. Maybe we're noticing more contamination from different sectors of campus, and we're able to do this kind of add-on education, either through signage or for tabling or talking to people directly, that really helps us keep recycling tight. And I often have professional recyclers come into campus, and they look through our incoming material, and the question is always, is this stuff sorted? And I'm like, no, this is all user separation incoming, waiting to be sorted. And we have just tremendous cooperation from the community. And again, most of our students live here on campus, and we're able to reach them. And we have a very consistent message. We always ask for their help, and they respond with just really terrific recycling. I feel very fortunate to be a part of this great community. We're always trying to share information about how we did, what we're doing, and all of our media is homespun here. It's me and students and full-time staffers hammering things together, usually under the gun. And we started recycling here as an institution in 1991. And by 1993, we had campus-wide recycling. All throughout campus, in every sector of campus, we had a recycling presence. However, communicating with the community, letting them know about things like Recyclemania, which has just been an outstanding vehicle for 8 or 10 weeks every year to supercharge our recycling education campaign. The community certainly understands NC2A athletic competition, and the Recyclemania competition, the Recyclemania tournament, very much follows this format. It's something that our constituents can totally wrap their minds around and totally get excited about. So I really feel as if the Recyclemania venue has enhanced recycling and made it relevant every spring to the entire community. And our messaging for Recyclemania and just for recycling in general goes on all year long. And I'm happy to report it's been tremendously successful, as evidenced by our showings in some of the Recyclemania contests over the last few years. Again, it's important that you always have messages out there that change. I think that I see a lot of programs putting messages out there, but using the same banners over and over again. And I think our constituents get trained to believe that maybe the same message is being putting out there when we use the same logos and the same format. So we're always trying to mix things up. We find that we have a much better comprehension rate when people see a different color sign out there than last time, or something that's arranged in a little different format. So I think that's a very subtle but a very important point as we try to reach and engage our communities. We really are grateful to a number of different organizations who help us get the message out on campus. And I think this is our pervasive presence over decades now. The university is 111 years old, and the university recycling program is sneaking up on our 29th year of service. So we do have a long history with our institution. I'm showing you these slides because they were produced by third parties here on campus. And it's really cool when you have entities like facilities management or the RHA or the associated students helping you get the message out there. I think it's evidence that your community is valuing this activity, is taking pride in how well we do this type of stewardship, and they're able to celebrate with us. Whenever we send a message out, we try to use some sort of message block, logo, something that will make people think about recycling for, you know, a second, to just increase their awareness. And I think that participating in all campus events is huge, but again, getting messages out there in a few different formats kind of trains people to read them. They just don't say, oh yeah, I've seen that before, and kind of move on. They actually take a look at some of this stuff, and we know that because when we change our logos or our letter blocks or any type of messaging we have, you know, electronic messaging with our ROAR network, we always get phone calls and emails and get some really good feedback. Most of it positive, some of it really constructive about the nature of our messaging. For our compost programs, as we proliferate that to all sectors of our student housing venues, you know, we're putting these signs out there and letting folks know how to deal with their food waste, where to do it. This is right next to a collection point, and we're doing this in partnership with the campus entities like the Student Housing Office and the Resident Housing Association. And what's great about this is that when we started kind of upping the ante on our composting program, chasing that 100% organics, we had plenty of partners at the table that wanted to be part of the next phase of success the university recycling program's about to enjoy. And that's not my sentence. I actually heard that from a housing administrator, and I was really pleased to hear that because that's my perspective also. And again, we're trying to get this message out in ways that aren't too obtrusive, but can be read and really have some subtlety to them. If you look over here, this is this Orbis collection container we use to collect kitchen scraps and food waste from student apartments. And this program is working really good. This is a pedestal little container holder that we developed for this 28-gallon container. And people seem to like it a lot. It seems to be a lot easier for them ergonomically to dump these containers, which they all have in their apartments with kitchens, into these containers on their way to class and in the evenings after dinner. We participate in a tremendous amount of events. Of course, we take the lead on AmeriCorps Recycles Day. We take the lead on Earth Day, but there's just a lot of events in the community that Green LMU and LMU Recycling try to partner with our community. We're able to lend some scale to a lot of these events, and people like including us, whether it's a tailgate before a basketball game or an associated student event. People feel like they need the recycling program's presence there, and I'm really grateful to that ethic. One thing I can say, it's much easier to do this type of outreach and education when you have a mature program. I was not able to spend as much time as I do now conducting some of these events for our community when we were in the growth phase. But after 1993, 1994, we realized this was a very important element of our program. And again, it is what makes LMU Recycling at the table team member, community member, and people love to have the recycling program present at their events, and we really try to oblige. All events. This is the Hyundai Fill It Forward Challenge that we had on campus a couple of weeks ago. And again, we're out there tabling, conducting a contest. Guess how many bales are in this can bill right here? And people enjoy those types of contests. And this is typically what we would do at a third-party event. Here we are with some ASLMU senators just taking pictures. People want to be affiliated with the recycling team. We want to be affiliated with all members of the community. And this was an ASLMU officer coming down asking if she could take a picture with the crew. And we're very happy to oblige. This is primarily full-timers here. I don't see any. Oh, this is a student right here. There she is, Lindsay. And then the CURC involvement, I think, and I think Recyclemania really wouldn't exist if CURC didn't exist, and I feel like CURC has been very complimentary to the Recyclemania tournaments. It's been a symbiotic relationship, but sharing how we did with our community is important, and it keeps Recyclemania relevant for our community, and Recyclemania has just been an outstanding vehicle to grow our program with and entrench, and people really love the NC2A athletic connotation and format that Recyclemania has adopted. We're always tabling. If we're not doing a large scale display in your event, we're at least out there with some equipment showing people the latest and greatest. Right here we have 65-gallon 2-compartment containers that go next to every low-rise residential facility on campus. Typically these are placed right next to residential facilities trash chutes, and they give a recycling option at the point of disposal. When we rolled those out, we would table with them at different events. And then this might be interesting to you. This is a homegrown, we call it a pan for obvious reasons, but we produce these in-house. It turns your forklifts into bucket loaders, and we have some that are rigid and some that dump. Right here we're using it as a super pallet, but a lot of homegrown equipment in our program that really helps us conduct the work of campus recycling in the most efficient way possible. Involving students in our displays has just been something that's been wonderful. I can't say enough. We get so many invitations to table and set up displays and participate with campus entities, and even non-campus entities that are having events on campus ask us if we can participate. So we're ready almost at the drop of a hat to do this type of stuff. We have reached a point where it doesn't infringe on any of our daily operations, and we have the scale and size to basically conduct this outreach because we realize it's important for the program. The program enjoys the type of participation, the low contamination rates, the high recovery rates that it has because people are very familiar with LMU recycling, and they love it when we take our street sign to these events. Recycling Road is the road that enters the LMU Recycling Center. When we got new waste recycling stations, we really went on a campaign to let the community know that they were out there. And as we added them to different sectors of campus, we tried to include them in different types of marketing that we had going on. But always conducting outreach, always participating in third-party events, and always trying to be relevant in our community so people understand that recycling is just a part of the LMU experience. We're using media, I think, very well. We've partnered with the Loyola and our campus newspaper, the Roar Network, our closed-circuit TV network here on campus, KXL and KXLU, our campus radio station, is always broadcasting recycling messages. I think without being overbearing, we have a nice spread of messages that basically thank people for recycling, because this school does a great job recycling. And in that process, purpose of thanking them for their daily recycling ethic and their daily recycling efforts, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're kind of setting the deck for tomorrow and ensuring their cooperation will be as strong as it is today. And
Bill, we're going to have to make some last comments so we can move on to our next few presenters.
I think this is my last slide. That's fine, Eric.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, last thoughts, Bill?
Well, I just want to say that you have to entrench and to get your message out there, you have to become a part of your community. And the recycling team can't be this entity on campus that's hidden among your infrastructure. It has to be a very viable, very dynamic part of your campus culture. And I think we've achieved that here in our 29th year.
Okay, thank you so much, Bill. We appreciate having you on.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, quickly, we're going to have a word from Kristy Jones, the Recyclemania manager, who's going to share how Recyclemania could work on your campus or college and university.
Great, thank you, Eric. So I just wanted to thank Bill for all the kind words about the Recyclemania program and Van as well. So I just want to give you a quick overview of the program. And of course, you can reach out to me at a later time with any questions. So in a nutshell, Recyclemania is a competition for colleges and universities focused on waste reduction and recycling. Like I said, it's 8 weeks. It takes place in February and March, straight through both of those months. There are several categories for campuses to participate in. There are 8-week reporting categories, and there are also special categories, and those are one-time reporting categories. And you can participate in one category, or you can participate in more than one category for the competition. The program or the competition is free to participate in, and we try to make it as flexible as possible, trying to have opportunities for campuses that have advanced waste reduction programs to give them a little bit of a challenge, and then also category opportunities for schools that are just getting started and or just don't have the capacity to maybe participate in several categories or report for 8 weeks. All right, so with the Recyclemania competition, I know Bill highlighted some reasons to participate and how it has helped support their program at Loyola. But a few things I wanted to mention. Through Recyclemania, it can help you set a benchmark. So if you're interested in just seeing where you are as far as waste reduction and recycling, it can help you. And with that data, then you can set short and long-term goals and integrate those into a waste management plan. If you have particular issues, areas that you want to focus on, say you want to increase recycling, you want to reduce contamination, you really want to tackle single-use plastics on your campus, Recyclemania is a great tool to do that. You've got 2 months, two months in the spring where you can test out new strategies, host engagement activities, educational activities. We also have a category around electronics. It's the only category in the competition that you can engage the local community in. So I really like to highlight that if you want to, if that's one of your goals is to reach out beyond the campus borders and engage businesses, churches, K through 12 schools. That's a very good opportunity to do that. If you're interested in greening sporting events, and we also have a new category for this year focused on zero waste. We also highlight through Recyclemania, many of the campuses engage their students, if not all of the campuses. So it's a really great engagement tool for students, and it can help them learn leadership skills. So things like recruiting volunteers, developing plans for the Recyclemania competition, just learning how to manage time and manage projects, and networking and meeting with different folks on campus, so communication skills. So there's a lot of different leadership skills involved in running a successful Recyclemania competition on your campus. So it's a really great opportunity for students. And we released a new resource this fall specifically for students, and that's on our website. So for 2019, we were able to, the campuses that participated, they were able to compost and recycle 69.5 million pounds of waste and to cut out 300 million single-use plastic containers. So we did a wonderful job in 2019, are looking forward to 2020 to make a bigger impact. And, you know, we have this infographic here. So National Wildlife Federation is the new managing partner for Recyclemania. This is our second year managing Recyclemania. So we're very happy and excited to help grow the program. And one of the main reasons we were interested in taking over to manage the program is really about wildlife and humans as well, because there is such a huge impact from plastic pollution on wildlife and human health as well. And also, you know, here in the US, we have a lot of materials that can be recycled, and that's something that we just need to do a better job of, making sure we're reducing contamination and just educating people on how to recycle properly and that they can recycle. So I wanted to highlight that for you. So on our categories, I can answer more questions about these at a later date, but just quickly, we have 4 main categories. Those are 8-week reporting categories: diversion, per capita, zero waste, and food. And the descriptions are here on what you need to track. We also have special categories within the competition, and these are one-time reporting categories at the end of the competition. So those are electronics, game day basketball, race to zero waste, and then a case study competition. And the case studies is an opportunity for campuses to kind of share their best practices around outreach. And like I said, let me know if you have any questions. So there's a lot of flexibility around participating in the competition. You can participate in one category or more than one category.
Thank you so much, Kristy, for taking the time to tell us about the program.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, everybody, our final presenter of the webinar program today is Deron Beal, who founded the Freecycle network with a single email on May 1st, 2003, and is currently serving as its executive director. The network has since grown to over 9 million members in 110 countries and is the largest recycling and reuse community in the world. During and previous to Freecycle, Deron spent 2.5 years with RISE as its enterprise manager for their recycling and transitional employment program in downtown Tucson. Before that, he worked with the conservation group Native Seeds/Search as a development director. Deron has a Bachelor's of Science in Foreign Service from Georgetown University, Master's and Bachelor Arts in Business Affairs and International Management from Thunderbird University in Phoenix, Arizona. And he spent several years living, studying, and working in Germany in finance with Procter & Gamble and in marketing with the American Chamber of Commerce, and currently resides in Tucson, Arizona. So with that, I will hand it over to Deron.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. And it's fun being in a virtual room full of other recycling geeks. And I'm honored to say that I was able to be a part of the University of Arizona Recycling Coalition probably a good 10 or 12 years ago as a community member when I was still working with RISE Recycling. So I got to take part in the Recyclemania right here in Tucson back in the day. In the meantime, freecycle.org has been around for about 16 years. And we've got about 9 million members who are giving things away instead of throwing things away on our web community, which you can find at freecycle.org. And maybe just to explain briefly what the Freecycle network is. Some people call it a cyber curbside. In other words, things that you used items that don't have monetary value that you still want to find a new home for, you can put on your curb, or if you want to avoid getting rained on, you can post it to freecycle.org and someone will come and pick up that item from your home. And we also have a lot of companies and universities who use Freecycle to find new homes for used items. People also refer to Freecycle as a free bay or a Craigslist for free stuff with a large dose of community thrown in, because each of our 5,000 local groups has a local volunteer who keeps scammers and spammers out and keeps everything family friendly. Now, a seed I want to plant with each of you, since you're also recycling geeks with the university, is this. There are ways we could work together, freecycle.org, and your local university. One is we could set up a local Freecycle group that's internal to your campus. You can have limited staff, professors, and students who can join and set up your internal university Freecycle group. This is a new concept, and I'm willing to explore that with each of you individually. It would be totally free. And the Freecycle Network is, of course, a charitable nonprofit. The second item where we could probably work together with you is on planning a local Freecycle free swap event. They used to do the same at the local University of Arizona campus and called it Hippie Christmas. So at the end of the semester, all the students would put out their stuff and community members would pick up the old TVs, desks, and furniture that would be in back alleys everywhere. Well, Freecycle would love to work with you to make it something a little bit more formal, where there's an area where everyone can drop off their use items, instead of just dumping them on the streets like often happens at the end of the semester when students are glad to get out and get out quickly. So at the end of the presentation, I'll get you my email address. If anyone's interested in either a local online Freecycle university group or doing a swap event, I'd be glad to work with you on that. So just to give you an idea how the Freecycle network is split up, of our 9 million members globally, you'll see that a lot of them are found in the English-speaking countries, US, Canada, United Kingdom, New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa. That's because the website originally was only in English. In the meantime, we've got volunteers, and the website's been translated into about 8 different languages, maybe 9 now with Turkish. So we're really spanning across the globe, but each group is globally local. So just like a Craigslist, you would have your one group for Tucson or your own community where you post items to give away. How are we doing? Well, about 32,000 items are gifted a day on freecycle.org. That's about 1,000 tons. If you stack those 1,000 tons in garbage trucks over the past year alone, that's 15 times the height of that Mount Everest. So it's a lot of stuff we're keeping out of landfills. And every time you give an item away, someone thanks you effusively for something you were about to throw away anyway. So basically that's the equivalent of one less landfill on the planet. And we've got about 3,000 volunteers that are helping us do this. That's in addition to myself as the one staff member and our one engineer. So 2 staff members and 3,000 volunteers. So just like you all work a lot with volunteers, we do a lot of the same. And it's always a fun juggling act, but you get to work with people who are passionate about what you're doing and feel really good about it. So that's a pretty good deal. So Freecycle is part of the new consumerism that all you are involved in too with your recycling, sort of transitioning that linear economy to a circular economy where we keep things in use instead of throwing those items away. And another way of talking about it is calling it collaborative consumption. This is an interesting book for you guys in particular. It's by Rachel Botsman, and it's called Collaborative Consumption. And it talks all about the different opportunities out there for trading, sharing, swapping. And Freecycle as a gifting community or sharing community is one of those options. And of course, there's all kinds of other options out there that you're more likely to have heard of, like Airbnb, Lyft, Uber, and all these big guys. Freecycle, I'll get to this later, is hoping to take this whole sharing economy up to the next level by enabling lending and borrowing as well. So stay tuned for that in a little bit. But basically, the growth of these sharing economies are a result of economic concerns. When people have the economic need, they tend to be more apt to seek sharing. The economy and a renewed belief in the importance of community. Sure, we've got this torrent of peer-to-peer social networks online, but how can we rechannel that in a positive way that brings people back together face to face? For example, with Freecycle, gifting items, where you arrange a time for them to pick up the item from you, and they show up on your doorstep and thank you for that item. So part of the shift is the linear productive cycle that we're seeing shift over to the more circular cycle. So it's not about producing or consuming more. It's really about the service that that product provides. For example, maybe it's not the car you need, maybe it's the ride that you need. And how can we most efficiently use a car to get the most people rides? And that's one shift we're seeing. Another, for example, the average usage lifetime of a drill is about 15 minutes. So in other words, we all have a drill. We don't need the drill. What we need is the hole in the wall, right? So how can we use these social networks to make the economy more efficient and better for the environment? You've got big business people like George Soros, who will say in his strong Hungarian accent, "We must act together or we will bake together." Well, using his rather blunt words, really what he's saying is that we need to find a way of using our resources more efficiently and giving businesses models to use so that they can follow our lead. And Freecycle plays one part of that. But really, what you see here, for example, like I said before, going from the model of car ownership to sharing cars and ultimately sharing the rides, Lyft and Uber, and ultimately down the road, driverless cars. You can see this in the various industries. And what Freecycle is trying to do is provide that final missing piece, transitioning from cars to apartments to Airbnbs to actual individual consumer goods and making it something that you can reuse those goods instead of throwing them away. So whereas before, cradle to grave, now we're looking at a cycle of cradle to cradle in our redistribution markets. So Oscar Wilde says, "We know the price of everything and the value of nothing." And Freecycle is all about that value of nothing, where something may no longer have monetary value, but still has great usable value if you can just find the right person easily to make use of that item. So, and in addition, as you all know, each of us as individuals creating about 5 pounds of trash every day. So part of what we need to get at here is changing our linear thought process from producing, consuming, and throwing away, or from the technological aspect of if we just have one more technical bauble, everything will be okay. That new solar panel that's more efficient will solve every problem for us. Well, part of that is true, but another part of that is changing the baubles in our brains to think in a different way, to think different, as Apple says, so that we can begin to change our consumer patterns as well and reuse things and demand of companies that they reuse and recycle products as well. You all are preaching to the choir, know the 3 R's of recycling, of which Freecycle is, of course, the reuse. But I'm going to sneak a couple more in there with repair and redistribute. And why is that so important? Well, if you look at the waste pyramid, I call it, there are 2 elements I'm going to throw at you. One is recycling, and one is consumer waste versus the waste that's created in the production of the items we use, or corporate waste. So now, if each of us as individuals were to tomorrow eliminate all of our waste and recycle 100% of everything we have, what would that look like for the total waste in our society? In other words, what percentage is individual consumer waste versus the amount of waste that's created by industry? And you'll be surprised to find that if you and I stop creating waste tomorrow, that's only 2% of waste overall. The other 98% of that waste is industrial waste. So yes, recycling is awesome, and man, we got to do as much as we can. But how do we get at that 98% of waste that's still being used, created, and making everything that we consume? One of the ways we can do that with Freecycle is through reuse. if you reuse a 100-pound sofa, you're not just keeping 100 pounds of the landfill. You're keeping 2,000 pounds in raw materials from being used to produce a new sofa. It takes about 20 times the raw materials to produce a sofa as the weight of the sofa itself. So, that might be diesel for transportation, or pesticides and herbicides for the cotton for the fields, and other raw materials. So keeping that used sofa out of the landfill is really saving us a ton of raw materials from being used in the first place. And it's getting at that 98% of materials, industrial waste, that otherwise we can't get into. So since you've already heard a lot of people talk, I'm going to skim quickly through our history. We started out as a recycling organization, collecting recyclables like you all do on campus in the downtown area where there's no room for recycle bins. It was also a transitional employment program. We got lots of stuff donated that wasn't recyclable, one of those being our first item, which was a bed, which we posted in one email on May 1st of 2003. We eventually gave away a warehouse of our used items, and that led us to eventually having over 5,000 groups across the globe in over 110 countries. So here's the first Yahoo group that we started with before we had our own website. And then once we got a couple of techies on board, we now have our one full-time engineer. We're able to design our own website using open source software. And this is what we have today. So each of our local groups is posting all of their items on a page that looks roughly like this. And you can see a couple items here in Tucson being posted. You can post a wanted or an offer, and people will email you back, and you pick the reply you like best. My daughter's going off to college, you could use that sofa, and you have them pick it up. And the nice thing is, if somebody stops by, thanks you effusively for something you're going to throw away, and you don't waste time or money throwing something into a landfill that we all paid tax dollars to dig in the first place. It's a beautiful concept, and there are lots of warm fuzzies involved in the exchange. Membership growth, we're up to about a little over 9 million members. That's 1,000 tons a day of waste diversion. Here you can see some of our post activity. It's about 10,000 posts a day, which when you send out emails for each of those posts to all the members, ends up being millions of posts a day on over 75 servers on every continent. So 1 million site visitors a month and about 20 million page views a month. Now, this is basically nearing the end of our presentation. I want to plant a little seed with you about what we're going to be rolling out in the spring, an entirely new website that enables friends circles in addition to our local groups. So we're empowering each of our members to not only post in a local group, but to create a small circle of friends where they can give items away, but also lend items. Maybe it's a book sharing group, book club, or a local school, or a church, or a local community group, neighborhood group, where you share tools. That's what we're going to be rolling out in the spring. So it takes our gifting and lending up to the next level. This is what the new website homepage will look like, where you can see a couple of posts. It automatically senses where you live and shows you some nearby posts, some nearby communities that you can join if you want to, and some basic information about Freecycle. Here you can see one of the local groups, what it'll look like on the new website, with some of the posts just like before, and just in a cleaner way, also including images. You can view it in different ways, like in a grid. And finally, here's a view of what some posts in your own personal friend circle might look like, where you can lend, borrow, or just give items away. And because lending and borrowing happens in a small circle of friends, the website will also automatically also send out reminders if your friend hasn't returned that drill yet. So you don't have to feel guilty about bothering them, because it'll appear automatically in your and in their inbox. So it's a guilt-free way of giving them a bump. So You'll also be able to chat with your friends on the new Freecycle website and track all your posts by item on the website, as well as your correspondence with those other people. In conclusion, a man is rich in proportion to the number of things which he can afford to let alone. Here's to that, and it's a big thank you to Mr. Thoreau for providing us with that comment. And as I promised, if you locally are interested in setting up a group for Freecycle internally to your organization for your university that's limited, for example, to your university domain name, email me at Deron@freecycle.org. Or if you want to do a free swap, in each of your communities, I can guarantee you we have thousands, if not tens of thousands of members we can invite for free to your own semester's end free swap to guarantee the success. It's also an easy way to get some local press and media if people know that thousands of people are being invited to a large free swap event on your campus. And with that, I'll say thank you for inviting me to present. And I hope you guys have plenty of success in your future Recyclemanias and other events. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you, Deron. Just to wrap up here, for those of us still on the line, we are having some upcoming webinars in the next decade. So in the survey that you get after this webinar, we would like you to complete the quick survey. We encourage you to take a minute to give us feedback on today's program and to help us decide what topics will be best for your program moving forward. And finally, we would like to thank AASHE for their partnership in supporting this program. And one last time, please join me in thanking Sally, Van, Kristy, Bill, and Deron for their presentations today. You can look for their presentations and a recording of the program on our CURC website, www.curc3r.org, within the next day or so. So remember, you will also receive a follow-up with a link to that resource. We thank you for attending and hope you have a good afternoon.